Please don't make us leave. Jake Morrison's key turned in his own lock, but the small voice inside made him freeze. Through the doorway, two identical girls with dark braids stared up at him, crayons falling from their hands. The braver one stepped forward, chin trembling. "Are you the soldier? The one Daddy talked about?" Jake's breath caught. 3 years he'd been gone, and now strangers, children, were living in his house. His neighbor rushed forward with a letter, hands shaking. "Jake, I'm so sorry. David, he died 8 months ago. He left them here. He left them for you." The quieter twin whispered, "Daddy said you promised to keep us safe." Jake had never seen these girls before in his life. But as he stared at the sealed envelope with his best friend's handwriting, he had no idea he was looking at the last request of a dying brother, and a truth that would shatter him completely. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The Georgia sky had turned the color of bruised peaches by the time Jake Morrison's truck rolled down Maple Street. 3 years. 3 years of desert sand and impossible choices. And now the humid southern air felt thick enough to drown in. He loosened his grip on the steering wheel, watching familiar houses drift past his windows like ghosts from another life. Home. The word tasted strange in his mouth. His Craftsman house sat at the end of the block, exactly where he'd left it. Except, it didn't look the same. Cheerful yellow curtains hung in the windows. He'd never owned curtains. The front garden, which he'd abandoned to weeds before deploying, now bloomed with black-eyed Susans and something purple he couldn't name. Someone had painted the mailbox. Jake cut the engine and sat in the sudden silence. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. The VA doc said that was normal, said it would get better with time. 3 months home, and he was still waiting. He grabbed his duffel from the truck bed and headed up the walkway. The porch steps creaked under his boots. That, at least, was familiar. He fished his house key from his pocket, half expecting it not to work. It did. The door swung open, and children's laughter floated down from upstairs. Jake froze. His heart hammered against his ribs. Wrong house. Had to be the wrong house. But no. There was the crack in the hallway ceiling, the scuff marks on the hardwood where he'd dragged his couch years ago. The laughter came again, lighter than bells. He moved toward the living room like he was clearing a building in hostile territory. Every muscle coiled tight. Ready. 2 little girls sat at his coffee table. Identical. Maybe 7 years old, with long dark braids and serious brown eyes. They were coloring, crayons scattered across a tablecloth covered in dancing teddy bears. When they looked up and saw him, they went perfectly still. "Girls?" a woman's voice called from the kitchen. "Do you want apple juice, or—" Mrs. Patterson appeared in the doorway, flour dusting her apron and her gray hair. Her weathered face went pale. The mixing bowl in her hands nearly slipped. "Jake Morrison," she pressed one hand to her chest. "Lord have mercy. You're early. You're not supposed to be here until next week. It's my house." The words came out harder than he meant them to. "Of course it is. Of course." Mrs. Patterson set down the bowl with trembling hands. "Oh, honey, sit down." "You need to sit down. I need to know why there are children in my living room." The braver of the 2 girls, he could tell by the way she shifted in front of her sister, spoke up. "We live here. Emma, hush." Mrs. Patterson moved between them and Jake like a shield. "Jake, I'm so sorry. I thought I had another week to— David's lawyer was supposed to contact you. They said next Friday. I thought I had time to—" "David?" The name hit him like a punch. "David Snell?" Mrs. Patterson's eyes filled with tears. "You don't know. Oh, sweet Jesus, you don't know." The room tilted. Jake reached for the wall. "He gave you keys years ago, remember? For emergencies?" Mrs. Patterson's voice wavered. "When Maria left him, when she abandoned these babies, he was desperate. Still deployed. trying to raise them alone from 8,000 miles away. He remembered you saying he could use the house if he ever needed it. So he did. Rented it. Paid every month like clockwork. Sent money for the girls. He was trying so hard to give them stability. Jake's throat closed. Where is he? Honey? Mrs. Patterson reached for his arm. David died. 8 months ago. In combat. The words didn't make sense. Couldn't make sense. David was supposed to be indestructible. David, who'd pulled Jake from a burning vehicle. David, who made terrible jokes during firefights. David, who showed him photos of his baby girls and said they were his reason for everything. These are his daughters. It wasn't a question. Emma and Lily. They're 7 now. The quieter girl, Lily, watched him with eyes too old for her face, like she'd already learned the world could break your heart. There's a letter. Mrs. Patterson pulled an envelope from her apron pocket. From David. It's sealed. He left it with his lawyer, with instructions to give it to you. Jake's hands shook as he took it. His name across the front in David's messy handwriting. The paper was crisp, official. But the words inside, Jake, you once told me you'd take a bullet for me. Now I'm asking something harder. Take care of my girls. The room blurred. Jake tried to breathe. Couldn't. They need the man I know you are, not the soldier you've become. They need someone who understands sacrifice. Emma is brave but scared of storms. Lily is quiet, but notices everything. They both love strawberry pancakes and need someone to tuck them in. A sound escaped Jake's throat. Something broken and raw. You're the only person I trust with my whole world. I know you think you're too broken for this, but brother, you're exactly what they need. They'll save you as much as you save them. Jake sank to his knees. 3 years of holding everything in, and it all came pouring out. Great, gasping sobs that tore through him. He pressed his face into his hands, David's letter crumpling in his grip. Daddy said you were the best person he ever knew. Through his tears, Jake saw Emma kneeling in front of him. Lily stood behind her sister, one small hand on Emma's shoulder. He said you'd keep us safe. Emma's voice trembled. Will you? Jake couldn't speak, could barely see through the wetness in his eyes, but he nodded. Both girls moved forward and wrapped their thin arms around his neck. They smelled like Johnson's baby shampoo and crayons, like innocence and hope, and every responsibility he'd never imagined carrying. I promise, he whispered into their dark hair. I promise. Hours later, Jake sat on the porch steps while Mrs. Patterson coaxed the frightened girls to bed upstairs. The night had grown cool. Crickets sang in the darkness. He read David's letter again, and again. Somewhere above him, a small voice asked for water. Mrs. Patterson's gentle murmur answered. A door closed softly. Jake folded the letter and pressed it against his chest, right over his heart. Sunlight pressed against Jake's eyelids. He jerked awake, heart pounding, reaching for a weapon that wasn't there. The living room materialized around him. His living room, with its familiar water stain on the ceiling and the morning sun slanting through those cheerful yellow curtains. Giggles drifted from the kitchen. Jake sat up, his neck protesting. Sleeping on a couch did no favors for a body that had spent 3 years on military cots. He scrubbed his hands over his face and stood, following the sound of voices and the smell of butter. Mrs. Patterson stood at the stove, flipping pancakes. Emma perched on a step stool beside her, carefully pouring batter onto the griddle. Lily sat at the kitchen table, arranging strawberries in a pattern on a plate. They all looked up when Jake appeared in the doorway. "Morning," he said. "Good morning." Mrs. Patterson's smile was warm, but her eyes were watchful. "We're making breakfast." The girls wanted to help. Emma studied him with those serious brown eyes. "Mrs. Patterson says you're a soldier, like Daddy was." "That's right. Did you fight bad guys together?" "Emma," Mrs. Patterson warned gently. "It's okay. Jake moved into the kitchen, keeping his movements slow and easy. Yeah, we did. Your dad was the bravest man I ever knew. Lily's head lifted. She watched him, but didn't speak. Sit down, honey. Mrs. Patterson gestured to the table. Coffee's ready? These'll be done in a minute. Jake poured himself a cup and settled into a chair across from Lily. She'd arranged the strawberries into a flower shape. Her small fingers moved with careful precision. That's real pretty, he said. The corners of her mouth lifted, just barely. Emma carried over a plate stacked with golden pancakes, her tongue poking out in concentration. She set it down without spilling. I helped make these. Mrs. Patterson showed me how. They look perfect. Breakfast was quiet. The girls ate in small, neat bites. Jake tried not to stare at them, tried not to see David in every gesture. The way Emma tilted her head when she thought. How Lily's eyes crinkled when something pleased her. Mrs. Patterson cleared her throat. Jake, there's things you need to know about how all this came to be. He set down his fork. Maria, the girl's mother, she left about 2 years into David's deployment. Just walked away. Said she couldn't do it anymore, being alone, raising twins. She signed over her parental rights and disappeared. Mrs. Patterson's voice tightened with anger she was trying to hide. David was desperate, trying to parent from overseas, arrange childcare, make sure his babies were safe. That's when he remembered your offer. He contacted his lawyer, set up the rental arrangement, and moved the girls in here with a nanny. I never knew. Jake's chest ached. He never told me. He didn't want to burden you. You had your own struggles. She poured more coffee, her hand steady despite the emotion in her voice. He sent money every month like clockwork, wrote letters, made video calls when he could. He was doing everything possible to give them a stable home until he could get back to them. Emma pushed strawberries around her plate. Lily had gone very still. There's boxes in the garage, Mrs. Patterson continued. David's belongings, letters, photos, legal documents. He'd started the guardianship paperwork, naming you, but he died before it was finalized. Jake's throat closed. The lawyer has copies. Everything's in order, mostly. Just needs your signature in a few places. She met his eyes. If that's what you want. Both girls were staring at him now, waiting. Jake pushed back from the table and stood. Can I see the boxes? Mrs. Patterson led him through the mudroom to the garage. 3 cardboard boxes sat against the wall, labeled in David's handwriting. Legal, photos, personal. Jake knelt and opened the one marked photos. His friend's face smiled up at him from the top picture. David in uniform, holding 2 tiny babies wrapped in pink blankets. The next photo showed the girls at maybe 3 years old, chocolate ice cream smeared on their faces. Then a birthday party, a park, a Christmas morning. David had documented everything, had tried so hard to be present, even when he couldn't be. He loved them more than anything, Mrs. Patterson said softly. And he trusted you more than anyone. Jake closed the box before his vision blurred too badly. Back in the kitchen, the girls had finished eating. They watched him with identical expressions, hope and fear mixed together. Jake pulled out a chair and sat facing them. Your dad and I served together for a long time. He saved my life more than once. Emma leaned forward. How? Well, there was this one time we were on patrol, and I got my boot stuck in some mud. Real sticky stuff. Your dad tried to pull me out, but he slipped and fell face first into it. Jake smiled at the memory. He came up looking like a chocolate monster, made these ridiculous growling sounds, and chased me around trying to give me a mud hug. Our commanding officer was not amused. Both girls giggled. The sound was like sunlight breaking through clouds. He was silly sometimes, Emma said. He made funny voices when he read us stories. He did the same thing with mission briefings. Drove everyone crazy. Jake's throat tightened. He talked about you two all the time. Showed everyone your pictures. said you were the best thing that ever happened to him." Lily's eyes filled with tears. Emma blinked rapidly, fighting her own. "Are you going to keep us?" Emma's voice cracked. "Or are we going somewhere else?" The question hit Jake like a mortar round. He slid off his chair and knelt on the kitchen floor, bringing himself to their eye level. "I made your dad a promise last night. I'm making the same promise to you right now." He had to force the words past the lump in his throat. "I won't abandon you. I don't know how to be a dad. I'm probably gonna mess up a lot. But I'm not leaving. You're home, and I'm staying right here with you." Emma launched herself at him first, throwing her arms around his neck. Lily followed a heartbeat later, more hesitant, but just as desperate. They clung to him like he was the only solid thing in a tilting world. Jake held them and prayed he could be what they needed. That evening, Jake stood in the doorway of the girls' bedroom, his old guest room, now painted lavender with white stars on the ceiling. Two twin beds sat against opposite walls, each covered in quilts Mrs. Patterson had obviously made with love. "Time for bed," he said, his voice uncertain. The girls had already changed into their pajamas, Emma's covered in dinosaurs, Lily's dotted with moons. They climbed under their covers without protest, each clutching a worn stuffed animal. Emma had a bunny with one ear shorter than the other. Lily held a teddy bear missing an eye. "Daddy gave us these," Emma said, seeing him notice, "before he left the last time." Jake's chest constricted. He moved to Emma's bed first, awkwardly tugging the quilt up to her chin the way he'd seen parents do in movies. "Comfortable?" She nodded, hugging her bunny tighter. He crossed to Lily's bed and did the same. She watched him with those observant eyes, and he wondered what she saw. If she could tell how terrified he was. "Do we get a story?" Emma asked. I don't know any kid stories." "That's okay. Daddy didn't always either. Sometimes he just made stuff up." Jake settled on the floor between their beds, his back against the wall. "All right. Once upon a time, there were two brave princesses." The smoke alarm shrieked through the house. Jake lunged for the toaster, yanking the plug from the wall. Two pieces of blackened bread popped up, trailing wisps of smoke. He waved a dish towel at the alarm until it finally stopped wailing. "That's the third piece," Emma announced from the kitchen table. "I noticed." Jake dropped the charred toast into the trash. "Maybe we'll just have cereal." He turned toward the refrigerator, and his elbow caught the milk carton sitting on the counter. It tipped, splashed across the tile, and sent a white river flowing toward his socks. Both girls dissolved into giggles. Jake grabbed paper towels and crouched to mop up the mess. "This is harder than defusing explosives." "What's defusing?" Lily asked. "Making dangerous things safe." He wrung out the soggy towels. "Apparently, breakfast is more dangerous than I thought." Emma's giggles turned into full belly laughs. Lily pressed her hand over her mouth, but her shoulders shook. The sound made something warm bloom in Jake's chest. He grinned despite himself. Mrs. Patterson's knock came as he was pouring cereal into bowls. Carefully, with both hands, she let herself in carrying a covered dish. "I heard the smoke alarm from my porch." She set the dish on the table and lifted the lid, revealing perfectly golden French toast. "Thought you might need reinforcements." "You're a lifesaver." Jake meant it. Over breakfast, she pulled out a small notebook. "We need to go over the basics. School starts at 8:15. The bus picks them up at the corner at 7:40. They need lunch money or packed lunches. Emma likes peanut butter and jelly, no crusts. Lily prefers turkey and cheese." Jake tried to absorb everything. School, lunches, schedules, all the ordinary details of children's lives that felt completely foreign. They take baths every other night. Hair washing is Wednesdays and Saturdays. Lily's takes longer. She's tender-headed. Bedtime is 8:30 on school nights, 9 on weekends. Mrs. Patterson tapped her pen against the paper. "Any questions?" "About 1,000. She patted his hand. "You'll learn." David did. After breakfast, Jake loaded the girls into his truck. The park was only a few blocks away, but Emma bounced in her seat the whole drive like it was a grand adventure. The playground equipment gleamed in the late morning sun. A few other children played on the jungle gym, their mothers chatting on nearby benches. Swings! Emma grabbed Lily's hand and raced toward them. Jake followed more slowly, his boots crunching on the gravel. He hadn't been to a park since he was a kid himself. The normality of it felt surreal, the laughter, the bright colors, the complete absence of threat. Emma had already claimed a swing. "Push me!" He positioned himself behind her and gave a gentle push. "Higher!" He pushed harder. She pumped her legs, gaining altitude, her braid flying behind her. Her laughter rang out clear and bright. Lily waited patiently on the adjacent swing. Jake moved to her and pushed more carefully. She didn't ask for higher, just smiled as she drifted back and forth, her feet dangling. "Watch this!" Emma jumped off mid-swing and landed in a crouch, arms spread wide. "Superhero landing. That's dangerous," Jake said automatically. Daddy let us do it. He probably had. David had never been cautious about the small stuff. Jake pushed Lily a few more times, then stepped back and watched them play. Emma convinced her sister to try the slide. They climbed the ladder together, went down tandem, and emerged at the bottom giggling. Something loosened in Jake's chest, something that had been tight for a very long time. This was joy, simple and uncomplicated. The kind he'd forgotten existed. That evening, Jake attempted spaghetti for dinner. The noodles were slightly mushy and the sauce came from a jar, but the girls ate without complaint. Mrs. Patterson had gone home to rest, promising to return in the morning. They were just finishing when the sharp knock came. Jake tensed instinctively. That wasn't a friendly knock. That was official. He opened the door to find a woman in a gray pantsuit, clipboard in hand. Her expression was professionally neutral. "Mr. Morrison? I'm Karen Walsh, Child Protective Services. I need to speak with you about Emma and Lily Chen." His stomach dropped. "What's this about?" "We received a report expressing concerns about the children's living situation. May I come in?" She didn't wait for an answer. She stepped past him, her shoes clicking on the hardwood. Her eyes swept the room, cataloging everything. The girls had frozen at the table, forks halfway to their mouths. "I'll need to conduct an inspection and ask some questions." Karen pulled a pen from her jacket pocket. "How long have the children been in your care?" 3 days. "And you are?" "Their legal guardian. Their father named me in his will." "Do you have documentation of finalized guardianship?" Jake's mouth went dry. "It's being processed. The lawyer has the paperwork. So no finalized legal guardianship." She made a note. "Current employment?" "I just got back from deployment. I'm looking." Another note. "Any experience with childcare?" "No, but..." "I'll need to see the children's sleeping arrangement, the kitchen, bathroom facilities." She moved through the house like a general inspecting troops. Jake followed, dread building with each room. She examined the girls' bedroom, checked the refrigerator contents, opened cabinets. In the bathroom, she pulled open the medicine cabinet. Jake's prescription bottles lined the middle shelf. Sertraline, Prazosin, the orange labels stark against the white shelves. Karen picked one up, read the label. "PTSD medications. I'm managing it. I see a therapist at the VA. Are these secured away from the children?" "They can't reach that shelf." "That's not adequate." She set the bottle down and made another note. Her expression had shifted from neutral to concerned. Mrs. Patterson appeared in the bathroom doorway, slightly breathless. "What's going on here?" "Ma'am, I'm conducting an inspection. Are you?" "Eleanor Patterson. I live next door. I've been helping Jake with the girls." "How long have you known Mr. Morrison?" 10 years. He's a good man, a decorated soldier. Those girls' father trusted him completely." "That's wonderful, but trust isn't the same as legal fitness." Karen's voice remained professional but firm. "Mr. Morrison has no finalized guardianship, no employment, no childcare experience, and is currently on psychiatric medications. He's grieving. He just lost his best friend. Those girls just lost their father. Mrs. Patterson's voice rose. You can't just... Mrs. Patterson, I understand this is difficult, but my job is to ensure these children's safety and well-being. They returned to the living room. Emma and Lily had left the table and now stood pressed against the wall, eyes wide. Emma's hands were clenched into small fists. Karen knelt to their level. Girls, I'm Ms. Walsh. I work to help children. Are you happy here? Yes, Emma's voice came out fierce. Jake is keeping us. He promised. Lily nodded frantically, tears already spilling down her cheeks. I'm sure he means well. But sometimes adults need help to take care of children properly. Karen stood and faced Jake. Mr. Morrison, based on this inspection, I have significant concerns. You have 72 hours to provide proof of finalized legal guardianship, stable employment, and fitness to care for these children. If you cannot provide adequate documentation, Emma and Lily will be placed in temporary foster care, pending a full hearing. No! Emma ran to Jake and wrapped her arms around his leg. You can't take us. Daddy chose Jake. We're staying here. Lily followed, silent sobs shaking her small body as she clung to Jake's other side. Jake rested his hands on their heads, his own vision blurring. Please, give me more time. I'll get everything in order. They've already lost so much. I don't make these decisions lightly, Mr. Morrison, but the regulations exist for a reason. Karen's expression softened slightly. I'll return in 72 hours for a follow-up inspection. I suggest you contact the attorney handling the guardianship paperwork immediately. She left her card on the coffee table and showed herself out. The door clicked shut. The house fell silent, except for the girls crying. Mrs. Patterson touched Jake's shoulder. We'll fight this. We'll get you what you need. Jake nodded, unable to speak. The girls held him tighter. Near midnight, Jake sat in the dark living room. The girls had finally cried themselves to sleep upstairs, but he'd heard them whimpering in their dreams. 72 hours. He pulled out his phone and stared at David's last text message, sent 3 weeks before he died. Take care of yourself, brother. I'm counting on you. I won't let them go, Jake whispered to the empty room. I swear I won't. He had no idea how to keep that promise, but he'd find a way. He had to. Dawn crept through the windows, pale and gray. Jake had been awake for hours, David's lawyer's business card clenched in his hand. At exactly 8 o'clock, he dialed. Harrison and Associates. This is Jake Morrison. I need to speak with Mr. Harrison about David Chen's estate. It's urgent. 1 moment, please. The hold music grated against his nerves. The girls were still asleep upstairs. He had 70 hours left. Mr. Morrison? The voice was calm, professional. This is Robert Harrison. I've been expecting your call. You have? Mrs. Patterson contacted me yesterday evening. I understand CPS has given you a deadline. Relief flooded through him. Can you help? The guardianship paperwork is complete on my end. David filed it properly before deployment, but there were procedural delays with the court. I can request an emergency hearing to finalize it. That should satisfy the legal requirement. How fast? I'll file the motion this morning. With luck, we'll have a hearing within the week. I need it faster. I'll do everything I can, Mr. Morris. David spoke very highly of you. He wanted this. Papers rustled in the background. I'll also prepare a statement documenting David's clear intentions and the timeline of events. It will help your case. Jake's throat tightened. Thank you. We'll get through this. I'll call you this afternoon with an update. The line went dead. One task down. Jake made coffee, his hands steadier now that he had a plan. He pulled up his contacts and found Colonel Barnes's number. His former commanding officer had retired to Florida, but they'd kept in touch. The phone rang 4 times before a gruff voice answered. Morrison, thought you'd fallen off the planet. Sir, I need a favor. Name it. Jake explained everything. David's death, the girls, the CPS visit, the 72-hour deadline. Silence stretched across the line. David Chen, Barnes said finally. Good man. Best NCO I ever served with. Yes, sir. And he picked you to raise his daughters. Yes, sir. Then that's all I need to know. The colonel's voice hardened with determination. I'll write that reference today. Email or fax? Email, sir. As soon as possible. You'll have it by noon. Morrison? Sir? You're a good soldier. You'll be a good father, too. Don't doubt that. The words hit harder than expected. Thank you, sir. Mrs. Patterson arrived at 9, bringing fresh muffins and fierce determination. Where are you headed? She asked. VA hospital. I need documentation from my therapist. I'll watch the girls. You do what you need to do. Emma appeared at the top of the stairs, still in her pajamas. Where are you going? Jake climbed halfway up to meet her. I have some errands. Mrs. Patterson will be here. Are you coming back? The question gutted him. Of course I am. Promise. I promise, Emma. She studied his face, searching for lies. Finding none, she nodded. The VA was crowded, filled with men and women who wore the same invisible wounds Jake carried. He checked in at the front desk and waited. 45 minutes later, a nurse called his name. Dr. Reynolds looked up from her computer, her expression shifting to concern when she saw his face. Jake, what's wrong? He explained everything in clipped sentences. The girls, CPS, the deadline, the medications they'd found. She listened without interrupting, then pulled up his file. You've been doing well. No missed appointments. You're managing your symptoms responsibly. You're employed? Not currently. I just got back. Right. She typed notes rapidly. But you have strong prospects and a solid treatment history. I can provide documentation stating that you're successfully managing your PTSD, that you pose no danger to yourself or others, and that seeking treatment demonstrates responsibility rather than instability. Will it be enough? It should be. Mental health treatment is healthcare, not a character flaw. You're doing exactly what you should be doing. She printed several forms and signed them with quick, confident strokes. I'll also include a statement about your prognosis and commitment to continued care. Jake took the papers with shaking hands. Thank you. Those girls are lucky to have someone who cares this much. She smiled. Come back in 2 weeks for your regular appointment. We'll talk about how to manage stress during this transition. Henderson Construction occupied a low brick building on the edge of town. Jake parked his truck and straightened his shoulders before walking in. A woman at the front desk directed him to the back office. Tom Henderson looked up from blueprints spread across his desk. He was mid-50s, weathered hands and understanding eyes. A veteran flag hung on the wall behind him. Help you? I'm Jake Morrison. I served 3 tours in Afghanistan. Just got back. I'm looking for work. Tom's gaze sharpened. Morrison, your name came up at the VA support group last week. Jake hadn't been to one yet. Sir? Sit down. Tom gestured to a chair. What kind of work are you looking for? Anything. Construction, labor, whatever you've got. You have experience? Basic training in engineering. I can follow instructions and work hard. Tom studied him for a long moment. Why the rush? Jake hesitated, then told the truth, the whole truth. When he finished, Tom leaned back in his chair. David Chen's kids. You knew him? Met him once at a fundraiser. Good man. Tom tapped his desk. I've got a crew that could use another hand. It's hard work. Framing, roofing, whatever the job needs. Pay starts at $20 an hour. You interested? Yes, sir. I can't officially hire you until Monday, but I can put together an offer letter today. That work for your timeline? Relief nearly knocked Jake sideways. That would be perfect. Tom pulled out a form and began filling it out. Welcome aboard, Morrison. We take care of our own here. Jake returned home just after 4. The girls were in the backyard with Mrs. Patterson, drawing with sidewalk chalk. Emma spotted him first and ran over. You came back. I said I would. Lily followed more slowly, her eyes cautious but hopeful. Jake knelt down. "I had a good day. The lawyer is working on the papers. My old boss wrote me a letter. I got a job offer." "A job?" Emma's face lit up. "Does that mean we can stay?" "It means I'm fighting for you, as hard as I can." That evening, after Mrs. Patterson went home, Jake attempted to braid their hair for bed. His thick fingers fumbled with the thin strands. "You're doing it wrong," Emma said, giggling. "I've never done this before." "Daddy wasn't good at it either." "But he tried." Jake's chest ached. He finished the lopsided braids and secured them with the elastic bands. There, not pretty, but functional. Lily touched hers gently. "It's good." They climbed into their beds, each clutching their stuffed animals. Jake sat between the twin beds, feeling completely out of his depth. "Tell us a story," Emma said. "What kind?" "About Daddy." Jake thought back to their deployment. "Your dad once carried an injured soldier 3 miles through enemy territory to get him to safety. He never quit, never left anyone behind. He was the bravest man I knew." "Were you brave too?" Lily asked softly. "I tried to be. Your dad made it easier. He always knew the right thing to do." They were quiet for a moment. "Are we doing the right thing?" Emma whispered. "Staying with you?" "I hope so. Daddy thought so. He told us you were the best person he ever knew." Jake swallowed hard. "I'm going to try to be worthy of that." Near midnight, Emma's scream pierced the quiet house. Jake bolted from the couch where he'd fallen asleep and took the stairs 2 at a time. Emma was sitting up in bed, sobbing. Lily was awake too, frightened. "What happened?" Jake knelt beside Emma's bed. "They took us away. In the dream. They took us, and you couldn't find us." He pulled her into his arms. She clung to him, her small body shaking. "I won't let that happen," he said fiercely. "I promise you, Emma. I'm going to fight for you with everything I have. What if it's not enough? Then I'll fight harder." She buried her face against his shoulder. Gradually, her sobs quieted. Jake looked over at Lily, who watched with wide eyes. "Come here." She climbed out of bed and joined them. Jake held both girls, rocking slightly, until their breathing steadied. "I've got you," he whispered. "Both of you. I've got you." When they finally fell back asleep, Jake returned downstairs. He opened his laptop and typed into the search bar, "How to be a good parent." Thousands of results appeared. He started reading. Sunday morning arrived with golden light streaming through the curtains. Jake stood in front of the bathroom mirror, adjusting his tie for the 3rd time. He hadn't worn one in years. Emma appeared in the doorway, wearing a yellow dress Mrs. Patterson had brought over yesterday. "You look nice." "So do you." He loosened the tie slightly. It felt like a noose. Lily joined them, identical in her yellow dress except for a small flower pin. She tugged at the collar. "We don't have to go if you don't want to," Jake said. "Mrs. Patterson said everyone wants to meet us." Emma's voice was uncertain. "They do, but only if you're comfortable." The girls exchanged a look. That silent twin communication Jake was learning to recognize. "Daddy used to take us to church," Lily whispered. "Before." Jake's chest tightened. "Then let's go." Maplewood Community Church sat on a tree-lined street, white clapboard with a modest steeple. Cars filled the parking lot. Jake killed the engine, but didn't move. His hands gripped the steering wheel. "You okay?" Emma asked from the back seat. It's been a while." Daddy said church was about family, not buildings. Jake looked at her in the rearview mirror. 7 years old and already wise beyond her years. They walked up the front steps together. Mrs. Patterson waited by the door, wearing a floral dress and her warmest smile. "There you are. Come, come." She ushered them inside. The sanctuary was smaller than Jake expected, filled with wooden pews and morning light. People turned as they entered, curious and welcoming. Pastor Williams approached, a man in his 60s with kind eyes and a firm handshake. "Jake Morrison, we've been praying for you." "Thank you, sir." And these must be Emma and Lily. He bent down to their level. Your father was a hero. We're honored to have you here. The girls pressed closer to Jake. Let's find you a seat, Mrs. Patterson said, guiding them to a pew near the middle. Throughout the service, Jake felt eyes on them. Not judgmental, curious, compassionate. When Pastor Williams asked the congregation to welcome newcomers, several people turned and waved. During the final hymn, Emma's small hand found Jake's. He looked down. She was singing, voice tentative but clear. Lily leaned against his other side, quiet but present. Something in Jake's chest loosened, just a fraction. After the service, people swarmed them. A woman with graying hair introduced herself as Carol Henderson, Tom's wife. We heard about your situation. If you need anything at all, you call us. Another woman, younger, offered her number. I'm a teacher. I can help with school registration. An elderly man pressed an envelope into Jake's hand. For the legal fees, every bit helps. Jake tried to protest, but the man shook his head. We take care of our own. Mrs. Patterson orchestrated everything, introducing Jake to what felt like half the town. Names blurred together. Sarah, Michael, Jennifer, Robert. This is overwhelming, Jake muttered. This is community, Mrs. Patterson corrected. Pastor Williams pulled him aside. We'd like to help. The church has a discretionary fund for situations like yours, and I'd be happy to write a letter of support for the custody hearing. I don't know what to say. Say you'll let us help. That's all we ask. That afternoon, Jake loaded the girls into his truck with a bouquet of flowers and their art supplies. Where are we going? Emma asked. To see your dad. The veterans' cemetery was quiet, rows of white headstones stretching across manicured grass. Jake parked near Section D and led the girls up a gentle slope. David's marker was simple. David Chen. Beloved father. Faithful soldier. The girls stood frozen. Jake knelt beside the headstone, setting down the flowers. I brought them, David. Like you asked. Emma's face crumpled. She fell to her knees, touching the engraved letters. Daddy. Lily joined her, tears streaming silently. Jake's own eyes burned. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry you had to face it alone. His voice cracked. But I've got them now. I promise you, I'll protect them. I'll keep them safe. I won't let you down. Emma sobbed against the headstone. Lily pressed her drawing into the grass, a picture of 4 stick figures holding hands with an angel overhead. That's us, Lily whispered. Our new family. Jake gathered them both close. They cried together, grief and love tangling until he couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. That evening, the church fellowship hall buzzed with activity. Long tables groaned under casseroles, salads, and desserts. Jake sat with the girls, overwhelmed by the kindness. People stopped by their table with words of encouragement, cards with handwritten notes, more envelopes. Carol Henderson sat down across from them. Don't be proud. Accept the help. You do the same for someone else. Let people love you. Tom Henderson appeared, setting down a plate of fried chicken. He addressed Jake directly. Talk to my crew. They're excited to have you. Job starts 2 weeks from tomorrow. 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. Thank you. Saw how the community rallied today. That says something about a man. Tom extended his hand. Welcome to the team. Late that night, Jake tucked the girls into bed. Their faces were clean. Their yellow dresses hung carefully in the closet. Emma smiled up at him. A real smile, genuine and unguarded. Today was good. It was. All those people care about us. They do. Lily held up another drawing. 3 figures in front of a small house, with a sun overhead. This is home. Jake's throat tightened. He kissed both their foreheads. Sleep well. As he turned off the light, Emma's voice drifted through the darkness. Jake? Yeah? I'm glad Daddy picked you. For the first time since coming home, hope flickered in Jake's chest. Small, but steady. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. Monday morning arrived with sharp clarity. Jake woke before dawn, made coffee, and checked his phone. An email from Mr. Harrison waited. Guardianship hearing scheduled. Friday, 9:12 a.m. County Courthouse. Judge Patricia Winters presiding. 4 days. Jake's hands trembled as he set down the mug. 4 days to prove he deserved to keep David's daughters. At 9 o'clock, Jake sat across from Mr. Harrison in the lawyer's modest office. The man was 50-ish, balding, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. The hearing will be straightforward, Harrison explained, sliding documents across the desk. Judge Winters is fair but thorough. She'll want to see your employment verification, housing stability, character references, and your capacity to meet the girl's needs. What about my PTSD? Harrison met his gaze steadily. Dr. Reynolds provided excellent documentation. You're in active treatment, medication compliant, no violent incidents. That works in your favor. Karen Walsh seemed pretty concerned. Ms. Walsh files reports based on initial observations. The judge will consider the full picture. Harrison leaned forward. Jake, David's will is crystal clear. He wanted you as guardian. That carries significant weight. What do I need to do? Be honest. Show her you're committed. Let her see the bond you've built with Emma and Lily. Jake nodded, absorbing every word. The week unfolded in a blur of preparation and routine. Jake woke the girls each morning with pancakes, still sometimes burned, but improving. He learned Emma liked extra syrup, while Lily preferred hers plain. Tuesday afternoon, they drove to the school supply store. Emma picked a purple backpack covered in stars. Lily chose green with flowers. When does school start? Emma asked, clutching her new pencils. 2 weeks. Mrs. Patterson helped me register you both. Will we be in the same class? The principal said you can be together if you want. The girls exchanged that look again, relief washing over their faces. That evening, Jake sat with them at the kitchen table, helping with reading practice. Emma read aloud confidently, stumbling only occasionally. Lily followed along with her finger, whispering the words. You're both so smart, Jake said. Daddy taught us, Emma replied. Before he left, the ache in Jake's chest never fully went away, but it was changing, becoming something he could carry alongside the joy. Wednesday afternoon, Jake was attempting to fold laundry when he heard tires on gravel. He looked out the window. A silver Mercedes sat in the driveway. His stomach dropped. A woman emerged, late 60s, elegant in tailored slacks and a silk blouse. Her dark hair was streaked with gray, pulled back in a sophisticated bun. She moved with practiced grace toward the front door. Jake opened it before she could knock. Can I help you? Her eyes, David's eyes, studied him carefully. You must be Jake Morrison. I'm Margaret Chen, David's mother. The world tilted slightly. I didn't know he. We were estranged. Her voice carried regret. I only learned of his death last week. I came as soon as I could. Jake stepped back, letting her inside. Margaret's gaze swept the living room, the children's drawings on the walls, toys neatly organized in baskets, photos of David on the mantel. Are they here? Emma and Lily? In the backyard, playing. May I see them? Jake led her through the kitchen. Through the window, the girls were drawing with sidewalk chalk on the patio. Margaret's hand flew to her mouth. They looked just like him, when he was that age. Something in her voice made Jake's defenses lower slightly. This was grief, pure and raw. Come on. The girls looked up as they approached, curious but cautious. Emma, Lily, this is your grandmother, your dad's mom. Margaret knelt despite her expensive clothes, tears streaming down her face. Oh, my beautiful girls. I've wanted to meet you for so long. Emma glanced at Jake, seeking permission. He nodded. You knew our daddy? Emma asked. I gave birth to him, raised him, loved him. Margaret's voice broke. I made mistakes that kept us apart, but he was my son, and I loved him every single day. Lily stepped closer, studying Margaret's face. "You have his eyes. And so do you, sweetheart." Margaret had brought gifts, beautiful dolls in matching dresses, books, expensive chocolates. The girls were delighted, showing her their chalk drawings and chattering about their father's stories. Jake watched from the porch steps, something uneasy stirring in his gut. That evening, after the girls went to bed, Margaret had read them stories in a voice smooth as honey. She joined Jake on the porch. "They're wonderful," she said softly. "They are. David did well with them. Despite everything." Jake waited. Margaret smoothed her slacks. "I need to tell you something. I've filed for custody." The words hit like a physical blow. "What?" "I arrived in Georgia 3 days ago. I've already met with a family lawyer and submitted the petition." Jake stood, anger rising. "David wanted me to raise them. David made that decision before he knew I'd reconcile, before he understood the resources I could provide." Margaret's tone remained gentle but firm. "Jake, I don't doubt your love for them, but I can offer stability, a beautiful home, excellent schools, financial security, no PTSD, no uncertainty about employment or housing. I have a job. I'm getting everything in order." "I know, and that's admirable." She met his gaze. "But these girls deserve every advantage. Private tutors, music lessons, travel, culture. I can give them opportunities you simply can't. They need love, consistency, someone who shows up. I'll show up every day for the rest of my life. I've lost so much time already." Her voice cracked. "I failed David. I won't fail his daughters." Jake's hands clenched. "The hearing is Friday." "I know. My lawyer will present my case." Margaret stood. "I don't want to fight you, Jake, but I will do what's best for Emma and Lily." She walked to her car, leaving Jake standing alone in the darkness. Near midnight, Jake sat in the living room with all the lights off. Margaret's words echoed endlessly. "Every advantage. Resources you can't provide. What's best for the girls?" Was she right? Could he really give Emma and Lily everything they deserved? Or was he being selfish, holding on to them because they'd become his purpose, his healing? David's letter sat on the coffee table. Jake picked it up, reading the familiar words by moonlight. "You're exactly what they need." But what if David had been wrong? Friday morning arrived gray and heavy. Jake stood before his bathroom mirror, buttoning his dress uniform with fingers that barely cooperated. The fabric felt foreign after weeks in civilian clothes, stiff, formal, weighted with memories. He straightened his medals. The bronze star caught the light. David should be here. A soft knock on the door. "Jake?" Mrs. Patterson's voice. "The girls are ready." He found them in the living room, wearing matching navy dresses with white collars. Emma's hair was braided neatly. Lily held a small stuffed rabbit. "You look beautiful," Jake said. Emma's lip trembled. "Are we going to the place where they decide?" "Yes. And you'll tell them we want to stay with you?" Jake knelt, pulling them both close. "I'll tell them everything." The county courthouse loomed against cloudy skies, 3 stories of red brick and white columns. Jake's truck pulled into the parking lot beside Mrs. Patterson's sedan. People were already gathering on the front steps. Tom Henderson stood with several men from the construction crew. Pastor Williams wore his best suit. Dozens of church members clustered together, some holding handmade signs. "We support Jake and the girls. Family is love, not money." Colonel Barnes stood apart, ramrod straight in his own dress uniform. Jake's throat tightened. "They came," Emma whispered. "They love you," Mrs. Patterson said gently. "Both of you, and Jake." As they climbed the steps, hands reached out, pats on Jake's shoulder, whispered encouragement, promises of prayer. The crowd parted, letting them through. Inside the courthouse, Mr. Harrison waited in a hallway lined with wooden benches. He carried a thick folder of documents. "Ready?" he asked. Jake nodded, not trusting his voice. The courtroom was smaller than Jake expected. wooden pews like a church, an American flag in the corner, Judge Patricia Winters presiding from an elevated bench. She was 50-ish, gray-haired, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Margaret sat on the opposite side with her lawyer, a polished man in an expensive suit. She wore pearls and a navy dress. Her expression was composed but sad. All rise. The proceedings began with clinical efficiency. Judge Winters reviewed the basic facts: David's will, Jake's guardianship designation, Margaret's custody petition filed 4 days prior. Mr. Harrison stood. "Your Honor, I'd like to present Captain Morrison's case." He laid out everything methodically. The completed guardianship paperwork, delayed only by procedural issues after David's death. Jake's job offer from Henderson Construction, starting Monday. Tom Henderson was present to verify. The home inspection report showing a clean, child-appropriate environment. Dr. Reynolds's letter confirming Jake's successful PTSD management. No violent incidents, medication compliant, regular therapy attendance. Then came the character references. Colonel Barnes took the stand, his military bearing absolute. "Captain Morrison served under my command for 8 years. I've seen him lead men through impossible situations. He's loyal, courageous, and one of the finest soldiers I've known. His PTSD doesn't diminish his capability. It proves he gave everything for his country. Those girls couldn't ask for a better guardian." Pastor Williams spoke next. "Jake has integrated into our community beautifully. The congregation has witnessed his devotion to Emma and Lily. He attends services, seeks guidance, accepts help. That's strength, Your Honor, not weakness." Mrs. Patterson's testimony was passionate. "I've watched him with those girls every single day. He braids their hair, makes their meals, comforts their nightmares. He's become their father in every way that matters." Finally, Mr. Harrison called Emma and Lily. They approached the stand together, holding hands. The court deputy brought a step stool so they could reach the microphone. Judge Winters smiled gently. "Hello, girls. I just want to ask you a few questions. Is that okay?" Emma nodded. Lily whispered, "Yes, ma'am." "Do you like living with Jake?" "Yes." Emma's voice was fierce. "He takes care of us. He tells us stories about Daddy. He promised he wouldn't leave." "And you, Lily?" Lily's voice was barely audible. "Jake makes me feel safe. He hung my drawings on the refrigerator. All of them. If you could choose where to live, what would you choose?" Both girls answered in unison. "With Jake." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Daddy wanted us to be with him. He said so in his letter. Please don't take us away." Judge Winters's expression softened. "Thank you, girls. You can sit down now." Margaret's lawyer stood. His presentation was polished, professional. He showed photographs of Margaret's home, a sprawling property with a pool, expansive gardens, bedrooms decorated for children. Financial documents proved her wealth. Bank statements, investment portfolios, a trust fund she'd established for the twins' education. Letters from private schools expressing interest in admitting the girls. References from California neighbors describing Margaret as responsible and loving. Then Margaret herself took the stand. She spoke with quiet eloquence. "Your Honor, I failed my son. I let pride and judgment create distance between us. I can't undo those mistakes, but I can honor David's memory by giving his daughters everything I should have given him. Unconditional love, stability, opportunity." Her voice strengthened. "I'm not questioning Jake's love, but these girls deserve private tutors, music lessons, travel that broadens their minds. They deserve a grandmother who will devote every remaining day to their happiness. I have the resources, the time, and the desperate need to right my wrongs." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "Please let me give them the life David would have wanted." Judge Winters called a recess. In the hallway, the community surrounded Jake like a wall. Hands clasped his shoulders. Voices murmured assurance. Emma and Lily pressed against his legs, one on each side. He rested his hands on their heads. "It'll be okay," Mrs. Patterson whispered. But Jake's gut twisted with dread. 20 minutes later, they filed back into the courtroom. Judge Winters looked tired. "I've reviewed all materials and testimony carefully," she began. "This is not an easy decision. Both parties clearly love these children." Jake's heart hammered. "Captain Morrison, your efforts are commendable. The community support is remarkable. Your service to this country is honored." She paused. "However, I must consider what serves Emma and Lily's best interests long term. Captain Morrison returned from deployment only 2 weeks ago. While his PTSD is managed, it's a recent diagnosis requiring ongoing treatment. His employment, though secured, hasn't yet begun. His parenting experience is minimal. No. Mrs. Chen offers immediate stability, established housing, financial security, family connections, and a grandmother's devoted attention. She can provide educational and cultural opportunities that will benefit these children throughout their lives." The room blurred. "Therefore, I'm granting custody to Margaret Chen. Visitation arrangements will allow Captain Morrison regular contact." Emma's scream cut through the courtroom. "No!" Both girls sobbed, clutching Jake desperately. "Please, we want Jake. Daddy said Jake." Lily's quiet voice broke. "Don't make us go." Margaret covered her face with her hands. The community sat in stunned silence. Judge Winters's expression was pained but firm. "The transition will occur over the next week, allowing time for adjustment. This court is adjourned." The gavel fell like a death sentence. That evening, Jake sat on the living room floor. Around him lay the girls' belongings, coloring books, stuffed animals, the purple backpack Emma had chosen just days ago. The house was silent. Mrs. Patterson had taken Emma and Lily to her place, unable to watch Jake's devastation. He held David's letter in shaking hands. "You're exactly what they need." "I failed you, brother," Jake whispered into the darkness. "I failed them." The words echoed in the empty room. Outside, rain began to fall. Jake didn't move, didn't cry, just sat surrounded by remnants of the family he'd lost before it ever truly began. Morning light crept through the curtains, but Jake didn't notice. He lay on the couch, where he'd been since midnight, staring at the ceiling. His body felt heavy, like the weight of failure had turned his bones to stone. The girls' drawings covered the walls, Emma's colorful stick figures holding hands, Lily's careful pencil sketches of flowers. One showed 3 people labeled Jake, Emma, and Lily under a bright yellow sun. He couldn't look away from them. Keys rattled in the lock. Mrs. Patterson let herself in, carrying a covered dish. She stopped when she saw him. "Jake Morrison, you get up from there." He didn't move. She set the dish on the coffee table and stood over him, hands on her hips. "I mean it. Sit up and look at me." Slowly, Jake pushed himself upright. His uniform from yesterday was wrinkled. He hadn't changed. Mrs. Patterson sat beside him. Her voice was gentle but firm. "You think you failed, David?" "I did." "No." She pointed at the drawings. "David chose you. Not some perfect parent with all the answers. He chose you, a man who'd been through war, who knew what it meant to be broken and keep going anyway." Jake's throat tightened. "I wasn't enough. You think David didn't know about your PTSD? About your struggles?" Mrs. Patterson shook her head. "He knew everything. And he still wrote your name in that will." "The judge?" "The judge saw papers and resources. She didn't see what matters." Mrs. Patterson gripped his hand. "David chose you because you understand loss. You know what it feels like to be scared and alone. You know you have to get up every morning even when everything hurts. Those girls don't need money or fancy schools. They need someone who won't give up on them, someone who shows them that broken people can still love fiercely." A tear slid down Jake's cheek. "You're exactly what they need," Mrs. Patterson said softly. "Even now. Especially now. So you get yourself together, and you show up for them. That's what David would do. That afternoon, Jake drove to the Maplewood Inn. His hands shook on the steering wheel. Margaret had rented a suite on the second floor. When Jake knocked, Emma yanked the door open. "Jake!" She threw herself at him, wrapping around his waist. "You came!" Lily rushed over, pressing against his other side. Both girls were crying. "Hey, hey!" Jake knelt down, holding them close. "Of course I came. Don't let her take us," Emma sobbed into his shoulder. "Please." "I want to stay with you," Lily whispered. Jake's heart shattered. He kissed the tops of their heads. "I'm here right now. Let's just be together, okay?" Margaret stood near the window, watching. Her expression was difficult to read. They spent 2 hours playing card games on the hotel room floor. Jake let the girls beat him at Go Fish. They showed him the room Margaret had prepared. Twin beds with matching pink comforters, stuffed animals arranged carefully. "It's pretty," Emma said quietly, "but it's not home." When it was time to leave, both girls clung to him. Jake held them until Margaret gently said they needed dinner. "I'll see you tomorrow," Jake promised. "Same time." Emma's face crumpled. "Promise?" "I promise." The next 3 days followed the same pattern. Jake arrived each afternoon for transition visits, while Margaret watched from the background. On Wednesday, a thunderstorm rolled through. Emma ran to Jake immediately, burying her face in his chest. He held her, murmuring comfort, explaining that storms couldn't hurt her here. Margaret noticed how quickly Emma calmed in his arms. On Thursday, Lily drew a picture of a house with 3 people inside. She showed it to Jake first, waiting for his reaction. His smile made her beam. Only then did she show Margaret, explaining each detail. Margaret saw the order of things. On Friday morning, Jake brought strawberry pancakes from Mrs. Patterson, cut into triangles for Emma, circles for Lily, just how they liked them. Margaret watched him automatically hand Emma extra syrup and Lily orange juice without asking their preferences. That afternoon, they walked to the park. Emma skinned her knee on the slide. She ran past Margaret straight to Jake, who cleaned the scrape while making silly faces until she laughed. He knew exactly how to distract her from pain. Lily found a caterpillar and brought it to Jake first, cupping it carefully in her palms. He admired it seriously, asking questions about what she thought it would become. Her quiet smile transformed her whole face. Margaret noticed everything. How Jake knew their favorite songs, how he'd created a secret handshake with each girl, how Emma told him about her dreams, and Lily showed him every drawing before anyone else saw them. She also noticed changes in Jake. He smiled more easily, laughed at the girls' jokes, engaged with the world around him instead of retreating inside himself. The tight lines around his eyes had softened. The girls had healed him as much as he'd protected them. Saturday evening, the night before their scheduled flight to California, Jake sat in his living room staring at their packed suitcases. Margaret had dropped them off that afternoon so the girls could say goodbye to the house. A knock sounded at the door. Jake opened it. Margaret stood on the porch alone. Her eyes were red, makeup slightly smudged. She'd been crying. "Jake," her voice trembled, "can we talk, really talk, about the girl's future?" Jake stepped back, letting Margaret inside. They sat in the living room, her on the armchair, him on the couch where he'd spent so many sleepless nights. For a long moment, neither spoke. Margaret's hands twisted in her lap. She looked around the room, at the drawings taped to the walls, the photos of David on the mantel, the colorful blankets draped over the furniture. "I've been watching you," she said finally, "these past few days. Really watching." Jake waited, his heart pounding. "When Emma fell at the park, she ran to you, not to me." Margaret's voice broke. "When Lily found that caterpillar, you were the one she wanted to share it with. You know how they like their pancakes cut. You know Emma's afraid of storms and Lily needs time to warm up to new people. You've created handshakes and inside jokes. You're their whole world. Tears streamed down her face. I thought I wanted them because I loved David, Margaret continued. But Jake, I wanted them because I lost him. I thought having his daughters would fill that emptiness. I thought I could fix my mistakes by giving them everything I have. She shook her head. But they don't need my money or my big house. They need you. Jake's throat tightened. Margaret, David was right about you. She reached into her purse, pulling out a worn envelope. He wrote me a letter. Years ago, before his last deployment, he begged me to reconcile, to let go of my pride and judgmental nature, to understand that love means sacrifice. She handed the letter to Jake with shaking hands. Jake unfolded the yellowed paper. David's familiar handwriting covered the page. Mom, I know we haven't spoken in 3 years. I know you disapproved of Maria, of my choices, of the life I built. But I'm writing because I need you to understand something before it's too late. Love isn't about control. It isn't about giving people what you think they need. It's about stepping back sometimes. It's about letting people make their own mistakes and supporting them anyway. I've learned that from Jake Morrison, the man who's become my brother. He'd take a bullet for me without hesitation. But more than that, he shows up every single day, even when he's hurting. He doesn't try to fix everything. He just stays present. If something happens to me, I'm leaving my girls with him. Not because he's perfect, but because he understands what really matters. I hope someday you'll understand that too. I love you, Mom. I forgive you. And I pray you'll learn to forgive yourself. Jake's hands trembled. He wiped his eyes. I was too stubborn then, Margaret whispered. Too proud to admit I was wrong. I lost years with my son because I couldn't let go of my need to be right, to be in control. She leaned forward. But watching you with Emma and Lily, you've taught me what David tried to tell me. Family isn't about being perfect or having all the answers. It's about showing up, trying your best, loving with everything you have. I don't understand, Jake said hoarsely. What are you saying? Margaret met his eyes. I'm saying I want to withdraw my custody petition. Jake's breath caught. I want to move to Georgia, buy a house nearby, be their grandmother, not their guardian. Margaret's voice strengthened. I want to help you, Jake. Support you financially when you need it. Be there for the girls. Teach them about David. But you're their father now, in every way that matters. Why? Jake's voice broke. Why would you do this? Because you're exactly what they need, Margaret said simply. David knew it. The girls know it. And now I know it too. The greatest love is stepping back so others can step forward. You've shown me how to finally honor my son. Jake couldn't speak. Tears poured down his face. Margaret stood, crossing to sit beside him. She took his hand. Those girls need someone who won't give up on them. Someone who understands sacrifice and keeps fighting even when everything's hard. That's you, Jake. That's always been you. I'm terrified I'll fail them, Jake whispered. Good fathers are terrified, Margaret said gently. They care enough to worry. But you've already proven yourself. You've fought for them. You've learned to braid hair and make pancakes and comfort nightmares. You've built a community around them. You've loved them fiercely. She squeezed his hand. Let me help you. Let me be part of this family David wanted for his daughters. A family built on love, not perfection. Jake pulled her into a hug. They cried together, grieving David and celebrating the healing he'd set in motion. The next morning, the courthouse was packed again. Jake sat at the defendant's table with Mr. Harrison, his heart racing. Emma and Lily sat with Mrs. Patterson in the front row. Margaret entered with her lawyer. She looked calm, resolved. The judge reviewed her notes. We're here for a status update on the Chen custody matter. Mrs. Chen, I understand you have something to address? Margaret stood. Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to formally withdraw my petition for custody. The courtroom erupted in whispers. The judge raised her eyebrows. "Mrs. Chen, are you certain?" "Completely certain." Margaret's voice was steady. "I've spent this week observing Mr. Morrison with my granddaughters. He's their father, in every meaningful way. My son chose wisely when he named Jake as guardian." She turned to face Jake. "I'm requesting a co-parenting arrangement where Jake maintains full legal custody and I participate as their grandmother. I'm moving to Georgia to be near them, to support Jake, to honor David's wishes." Tears glistened in her eyes. "My son taught me that family isn't about possession or control. It's about love and sacrifice. Jake has shown me what that looks like in practice. I want to be part of their lives. But Jake is their home." The judge looked at Jake. "Mr. Morrison, how do you feel about this arrangement?" Jake stood, his voice thick with emotion. "I'd be honored to have Margaret in the girls' lives. They deserve to know their grandmother, to hear stories about David. We can be a family together." The judge smiled, the first real smile Jake had seen from her. "Then I'm granting full legal guardianship to Jake Morrison, with visitation and co-parenting rights for Margaret Chen." She banged her gavel. "These girls are blessed to have both of you." The courtroom exploded. People cheered and cried. Emma and Lily shrieked, racing to Jake. He scooped them both up, spinning them around while they laughed and sobbed. Margaret joined the embrace. For the first time, they were complete. 6 months later, Jake hammered the last nail into the porch railing. He stepped back, admiring his work. "Looks good, Morrison," Tom Henderson called from his truck. "See you Monday." Jake waved as his boss drove away. The construction job had been everything he needed. Steady work, good pay, camaraderie with other veterans. "Jake, we're home!" Emma's voice rang out from inside. He opened the front door. The house burst with life. Crayon drawings covered the refrigerator. A tire swing he'd built hung from the oak tree in the yard. Photos of David smiled from every surface. Margaret stood in the kitchen, helping Lily stir cookie batter. She came for dinner twice a week now, living just 2 streets over in a cozy cottage. She'd become exactly what the girls needed. A loving grandmother who enriched their lives without trying to control them. "Something smells good," Jake said, kissing the tops of both girls' heads. "Grandma's teaching us Daddy David's favorite recipe," Emma announced proudly. Lily held up the spoon. "Chocolate chip cookies. Want a taste?" Jake sampled the dough, making exaggerated yummy noises that sent both girls into giggles. That evening, after dinner, and stories and tucking in 2 sleepy girls, Jake sat on the porch with Margaret. They watched fireflies dance in the growing darkness. "You've done well," Margaret said softly. "David would be so proud." "I couldn't have done it without you," Jake replied honestly. "Thank you for staying." She patted his hand. "Thank you for showing me what family really means." The following Saturday marked 1 year since David's death. The 4 of them drove to the Veterans Cemetery together. David's headstone gleamed in the morning sun. Fresh flowers already sat at its base, from other soldiers who remembered him. Jake knelt, the girls flanking him. Margaret stood behind them, one hand on each girl's shoulder. "Hey, brother," Jake said quietly. "I don't know if I'm doing this right, but I'm trying my best. Your girls are incredible. They've saved me just like you said they would." His voice broke. "We miss you every day, but we're going to be okay. We're a family. The family you dreamed we'd be." Emma placed a drawing at the headstone, all 4 of them holding hands with David as an angel above them. Lily added a bundle of wildflowers. "We love you, Daddy," she whispered. Margaret wiped her eyes. "Thank you for teaching me what I should have learned long ago. I promise to honor you by loving them well." They stood in silence, feeling David's presence in the warm breeze, the bird song, the peace settling over them. As they walked back to the car, Emma took Jake's hand. "Daddy David sent you to us. And you sent us, Grandma Margaret." She beamed up at him. We're the luckiest girls in the world." Lily tugged his other hand. "You're the best dad ever, Jake." Jake's eyes filled with tears, but this time they were tears of gratitude, not grief. He looked at these two beautiful girls who'd cracked his heart wide open, at Margaret, who'd become true family, at the life they'd built together from broken pieces. He was whole, finally, completely whole. I hope you enjoyed that story. Make sure to like and subscribe so that you do not miss out on tomorrow's story. Two of my favorite stories are on the screen now for you to enjoy.